Lose the Labels is the name and theme of this video. And I want to tell you from the outset that I did not make up that title. I just decided to make that the title of this video. But it's actually an expression that I've heard many times from the main admin of the Empowered group. And he uses it all the time. And I really am not going to say anything new, I don't think, that he or others haven't said, but I just want to kind of do it in a certain detailed way that hopefully will make a good point. So lose the labels. First of all, what labels are we talking about? And second of all, why is it important or beneficial to lose the labels? The labels we're talking about are specifically the labels that are put on us by another person or another entity. And that could be, somebody calls us an idiot. Well, we know we're not idiots, so why do we're not going to, submit to that person labeling us that way. So people, all the time, people label other people. The government does it. But specifically, we want to talk about the labels put on us by Jehovah's Witnesses, by active Jehovah's Witnesses. And the reason that we want to shed the label, we'll go into in more detail. But it's obviously because if they label us as something, how does that define us? If they want to think about me in a certain way, as a certain kind of a person, and I know that they're wrong, what's the difference? Let them go ahead, and because they don't talk to me anyway, so and they don't have influence on anybody. No government person, nobody in business really cares about what they think about anything. So why do I care about what they think? Why do I care about the label? So the first one I want to talk about is disfellowshipped. How many times have you caught yourself saying, yes, I'm disfellowshipped? I am disfellowshipped. Not I was disfellowshipped, I am disfellowshipped. In other words, I'm in a disfellowship state. That's what I am, that's who I am. The question is, to whom? Who really considers us disfellowshipped? And disfellowshipped from what? Well, it's obvious that it's only Jehovah's Witnesses that even care or even know what that means. It's funny that it's sort of an antique word, actually. You just really don't hear it anymore. We might know the word excommunicated because the Catholic Church has practiced excommunication for centuries, really. Although it's really not even something that they even do anymore. I haven't really ever even heard of a case in my whole lifetime of that I can remember of them excommunicating anybody. And it means something different anyway. But disfellowship is sort of an antique term, but it's actually a very clever term because the root of it is fellowship. Now, that's a warm and fuzzy thing, right? It's nice, it's cuddly, it's positive, right? We have a fellowship. I'm in fellowship with all these people. We love each other. We care about each other. It's a fellowship. What a wonderful word that is. Put that little dis in front of it, and it's like, yeah, but you're not in it anymore. Sorry, fellowship's over for you. So it's a nasty word. It's basically really negative. It's their one form of punishment that's the most effective and the most final, the most thorough. It's the one that they use all the time to anybody that doesn't do what they want. So it's a negative word because of that. And how does it define us? Like if I go around saying I'm disfellowshipped, do I tell that to the guy that just fixed my car and I had to pick it up at the shop? Did I say, oh, by the way, just need to let you know that I'm disfellowshipped? Nobody. I mean, unless he's a JW, I guess maybe he might want to know that. But even then, you wouldn't tell somebody in a business relationship. There's no point. It's just maybe if you met somebody in some kind of a, like if you were online behind somebody at the grocery store and you know that they're in the congregation and they might not be aware that you're disfellowship, maybe as an act of kindness, you might want to say, by the way, I don't know if you want to talk to me, whatever. That's your choice, obviously. But pretty much everybody else on the planet, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, I have a very, very dear friend who I met, I guess, about, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, I'd say, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And and not a Jehovah's Witness, never was. She's actually Catholic. And when I explained this fellowship, and I wasn't at the time, but I eventually was in 2016 was when they finally did their thing. She could never remember the word. She's what is that? defellowshipped? Is that I forget what you call it. I'd say, well, that's close. It's disfellowship, but it doesn't mean anything to her, as it doesn't mean anything to anybody else except Jehovah's Witnesses. Everybody's confused by it. Like if you're kicked out of a club, I don't know, for whatever reason, you didn't pay your golf club dues, so you're out of the club. You're not dis anything. You're not disfellowship. You're just not in the club anymore. So it's a label. It's clearly a label, and it defines who we are to a very small percentage of the planet. Actually, 0.1% of the planet, and it's probably even less now because they've lost a lot of numbers. But let's say 0.1%. So a tenth of a percent of the population in the world. In the United States, it's a higher percentage, but so you go to certain parts of the world and there's none, like in most of the Muslim countries, in a lot of China. It's such an insignificant part of the human population that who the heck cares what they think about me? Now I know we have certain people that we're close to or were close to that we still care about, like if your mom and dad, are shunning you. Obviously, you care about what they think to some extent, So, but still, to have that label on us, that labels us as it identifies us with that organization. It identifies us with the organization that we have nothing to do with anymore. We're not part of it in any way. We have no plans on returning. There's no chance of ever being identified with it, except that oh yeah, that's right, we're disfellowshipped. See, it's not just I used to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but I'm not anymore. I used to go to this elementary school. I stopped going when I was 10, 11 years old and graduated. I used to go to this high school. I'm not there anymore. I used to go to this college. I used to be on this football team. I used to be a Cub Scout, a Boy Scout, a Girl Scout, a Brownie. I used to be all those things, but I outgrew them, and I have no problem with them. I'm just not associated with those organizations anymore. There's no word for that. There's no word that says I'm an ex Tresper Clark high school student. I went to Clark High School, and I'm not there anymore. I'm done. It's part of my life. It's part of what made me who I am. Only with the Jehovah's Witnesses is it a big deal that we're disfellowshipped. So it basically ties us to that organization. It defines who we are as a person. So lose the label. Just lose it. just stop calling yourself. I mean, again, it's up to you, but you will find it's a lot easier to make progress when we finally put that much distance between us and the organization to where we don't even care. Like, what do they call that? I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't have to explain it to anybody. If anybody needs to know anything about my past, I would just say, well, yeah, I used to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but I might say I woke up or whatever. Just the point is, I'm not there anymore. The other one is a little more controversial because a lot of people are kind of proud to wear this label, and I understand why. And I'm not going to say, it's not for me to say yay, nay about anything, really. I'm just telling you what I've learned about this. So it's not for me to judge whether you should do this or that. But the other word that is actually very, very disturbing to a lot of XJWs, but it's also proudly worn by a lot of XJWs, is the word apostate. Now, apostate can mean a whole bunch of things. In the most basic general way, I'm not going to read the dictionary definition because wherever you look, it says something different. None of them even agree, because in shades of meaning. But it basically can mean anyone who has left a particular religion or group or certain body of teaching. Anyone that doesn't believe that body of teaching anymore is an apostate. Well, that's not necessarily bad. That means every Catholic that ever became a Jehovah's Witness is an apostate to the Catholic Church. Or everyone that was ever Jewish and is now an atheist is an apostate. It sort of doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean a person's good, bad, ugly, whatever. It's just I don't believe this anymore. So that's not necessarily a bad label. The thing is, though, that if we're apostates, again, it's according to whom? Our Jewish neighbor next door? Does he say, oh, you're an apostate, right? As an apostate, how do you feel about this? Tell me how apostates think about it. No, nobody. Your Jewish neighbor couldn't care less about what the Jehovah's Witnesses want to call us. So it is unique to them, and other interpretations of it are someone that actually actively works against a group that you used to be a member of, and it could be a religion, it could be any kind of group, anything, a civic association, whatever, in the broadest sense of the term, that we're actively working against it. Another interpretation is someone that not only doesn't believe in God or Jesus or both anymore, but actively works against them or believes in them. Like they say, Judas is the greatest apostate because he knew Jesus personally and he kind of knew who he was, and yet he did what he did. He betrayed him. So the greatest apostate ever. So that's another definition of an apostate. And when we use that definition, it definitely has negative connotation. It brings up questions of loyalty, faithfulness, goodness. And it puts the person with the apostate label in the worst possible viewpoint. And of course, the witnesses will go even beyond that and say that these are people with diseased thinking, I think is what they'd say, diseased minds or whatever. I don't know. They'll use words like gangrene. I'm just like, well, whatever they can do to make you look like you're the worst person on the planet. And you really, an apostate is in their pecking order. You have pedophiles and serial rapists and serial killers and all these awful people, terrorists, these really awful people at the bottom of the heap, I guess. But you know what? Who's lower than all of them is an apostate, because there's no forgiveness for an apostate and they're working against God. Well, it's no secret then, there's no mystery why a lot of ex-JWs do not appreciate that term. They don't feel that they're, and I'll tell you right now that I feel that way. I feel like I am not an apostate, period. That's the only time I'm going to give you my opinion in this video. And it only matters for that much amount of time. If your opinion is other than that, you feel like, no, we're all apostates. Okay, fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But I'm just telling you that me as a person, I do not appreciate having that label. I don't want it. And it's not who I am. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. And that's kind of what motivated this video, because a lot of people are sort of complaining a lot. I hear a lot of complaints about the different, social media posts that they see and things like that. And they just don't want to be associated with people that want to call everybody an apostate, Well, the thing is, if we're going to be open-minded and non-JW and not judgmental, we want to accept everybody in the community. It doesn't mean we're going to be friends with everybody, but so if somebody says, no, I'm an apostate and I'm proud of it, well, that's great. Let's have a beer. It's fine. And I'll talk to you any minute of the day. It's fine. But please don't, consider people that don't consider themselves apostate. Please don't put that label on them. Because again, it's a label that identifies us with Jehovah's Witnesses and nobody else. No Catholic friend down the street is going to say, I heard you're an apostate. When you go to buy a McDonald's hamburger, nobody's going to say, wait a minute, I can't serve you because you're an apostate. Nobody cares. Nobody looks at you that way. Only Jehovah's Witnesses and ourselves, if we happen to be proud of that title. So lose the label, lose it. And I'm not saying, absolutely you're crazy if you don't, because again, everybody's got a different opinion. I know there are some in the community that are well known for helping people wake up, actually, with certain videos that expose certain information. And I forget, one fellow calls himself the reluctant apostate. I forget what it is, but that's his business. I mean, I can't. It's not for me to judge. But in general, it's for the vast majority of us, put it that way, it's really healthy for us to just lose the labels. Stop thinking of ourselves as disfellowshipped. Stop thinking of ourselves as apostate. Stop thinking of ourselves as a wounded victim, as damaged by this organization. The best, healthiest way to progress is to completely put as much distance as possible between us and the past and the old organization. So lose the label.